Hello, everyone. Great to see everyone again. I'm Patricio Utz, one of the co-founders of Abstract and the CEO. We have had a really interesting, sort of opportunity here to talk with a lot of leaders in the GovTech and legal tech space. And I've known Sadale for a while now, and really excited to have him on board here because I think what him and his team are doing at Open Grants is not only really impactful, but from like a nerd perspective, really cool, to say the least. And I think a lot of it ties in with what we're doing here at Abstract. So before diving into, what is a grant, how do budgets and changes in legislation impact grants, and sort of what are the risks and opportunities they pose for businesses. We'll start with a quick intro here from Sadale, and I guess we'll just dive right into it. So Sadale, great to have you on board here. Would love to hear a little bit about your background for our audience to hear.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much. And equally a fan of what y'all are building at Abstract. So super excited to chat today. And I think there's some really nice synergy between what you all do and where you're focused and where Open Grants is focused. But I am a serial entrepreneur and founder. This is my fourth venture-backed company. I've always kind of focused my work around the intersection of public sector and private sector and how those two can maybe play nicer together, if you could say that. So I love the potential that exists for government and the private sector to collaborate and be better partners with one another. And I like building tools that make that a reality.
Definitely. And something I always try to really push for in our webinar series here is always getting to actual nitty gritty details. Because I feel like whenever I listen to episodes like this, like people keep it really high level, which is great. But sometimes it's nice to get into some of the details, right? So I guess just starting off with what y'all do at Open Grants, I'm wondering if you can walk me through sort of what part of the grant process you work with. Is it, when people draft grants? Is it after they're approved? Implementation of it? How do you guys work? Can you explain to me what a grant is? How do you work with it? And sort of what is Open Grants doing that's sort of different than the old school method of searching for and applying to grants?
Yeah, of course. So I guess we'll start at the top. So a grant is non-dilutive funding. And in particular, what we focus on at Open Grants is that non-dilutive funding that requires no repayment, which is most grants in the United States and North America in particular. We are adding this week the UK and the EU as markets.
Nice.
Which is exciting. But the thing that's always drawn me to grants is unlike debt and other kinds of capital, they are very much outcomes focused. So they're looking for, they're trying to fund a new cure for cancer, or they're trying to fund infrastructure to, make sure the water is clean in a community. Grants are very impact focused. And so what we do is we help people who are looking for grants find them. It can be really hard to find the right grant funding. It's a difficult process, as it turns out. And so we connect people automatically to the grant funding that they're eligible for. And then we also connect them to experts who can help them write the grants and do a lot of the stuff that you were talking about in terms of kind of implementation and management and so forth. And of course, we're bringing, and partnering with different companies that can, bring AI to bear to like write grants and all those things. But where we focus and the vision of Open Grants is to build a common app for grant funding. What we're building towards is a single place where you can upload all your info and get access to all the grant funding that you might need to, all very, powered by AI and so forth. So that's what we do at Open Grants in a nutshell, is we make it easy to discover grant funding and then to get connected with experts who can help you write the grants and manage that process.
Got it. And have you seen a difference between this process for a large corporate enterprise that has multiple sort of products and lines of interest versus like a restaurant owner? I don't know, wonder if you can like sort of touch on the differences in in discovering and applying and using the grants that you've seen across the differing sizes of businesses?
Yeah, I think for a lot of organizations, grant funding is not a core. It's not like a core capability of the team at any place. So for small businesses, what that means is there's a lot of overwhelm. They have kind of either decision paralysis, or they simply just don't do it because they're so overwhelmed. And so they never get access to the resources that they should definitely have access to, because they definitely need them. On the other hand, at the enterprise level, it's less of like sort of action and like overwhelm, and more of just a lack of experience with the format of grant funding. And so what you'll find is, similarly, for different reasons, but for you get the same outcome, which is that you'll have people who are doing really cool, incredible work, and they are just simply not accessing grant funding. They're going every other direction possible. And so, and a lot of that's just because they're not familiar with it, and they can go get loans or collaborate, work with PE or some other form of capital on the enterprise front. Or maybe they're just like requesting more budget from some other department, right? So, unfortunately, all of this means that the government is fundamentally missing out on incredible opportunities to partner with private industry, and likewise, industry is missing out on incredible opportunities to work with the government, which, they can lead to massive contracts and really influential relationships. It's generally speaking a huge net positive for enterprise or small business to get involved. But often the barrier is just so much that they just don't.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And something I've personally wondered about. So, a lot of people don't realize that companies such as, I'll just name a couple, both of which happen to be under Elon Musk as the most cliche example here. But, a lot of the work that SpaceX and Tesla did was funded by government, right? Government grants. But a lot of that's like sort of like hard tech, like hardware based. So have you seen a lot of people in purely software leverage these grants, or any other industries that you feel like maybe people aren't thinking about grants, but they should be?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, I forget the company's name exactly, but there's a few large, software companies that get grant funding to train their employees, right, or to upskill certain parts of their labor force. There's other enterprises that have benefited from grant funding to go out and find more employees and onboard employees. So I think when, as you drift away from hard tech, you get into really interesting opportunities for large enterprise to engage with workforce, interesting opportunities for enterprise to do economic development, have an impact in their communities, opportunities for them to bring on like interesting modes of transportation, maybe, or deploy fleets of vehicles. We had the privilege of working with another massive company out there who I won't name, but they were able to deploy a ton of really interesting alternative fuel vehicles within their ecosystem. And we didn't do this at Open Grants. I did this in a previous engagement as a consultant. But that was a huge opportunity for this company to test out and de-risk new technology in their vehicle fleet, for example. So there's a lot of opportunities for companies to start to do things that maybe are not right in their wheelhouse, but improve the sustainability or overall just profitability of their business, in particular in like the energy efficiency space, but also in the labor force and kind of workforce development arena.
Yeah. And I feel like, we usually talk about risk and opportunity at Abstract. So for those tuning in that aren't aware of sort of what we do at Abstract, we break down how changes in government policy, namely bills and regulations, may pose a risk or an opportunity to your business, whether it's your labor, your product, whatever it may be. And so we work with a lot of sort of the quote unquote grant aspect of things really upstream when they're introduced as proposals and budgets. And so, I'm curious to hear more about your experience with the process around grants and public comments and all that fun stuff, as I like to say. Because when we look at sort of proposals that turn into grants. Usually, they are line items in bills. These bills may be a budget bill, they may not be the budget bill, and these can be usually proposed across different states, but also at the local or federal level. Elected officials vote and amend these bills. They go through the entire sort of process, and then once the bill passes, if it passes, usually that then needs to be implemented by some sort of agency, regulatory agency. At which point then grants are allocated from there. But yeah, wondering what have you seen? I guess in the sort of agency side of things, like as these grants are being formed, any insights into joining public comment periods to advocate for more funding. How have you seen this play out?
Yeah, I think it's really important to be, once again, this is about engaging with the government as a partner, right? So in these periods, we tell folks all the time, small businesses to large enterprise, if you are interested in working with the government and they're putting out RFIs or they're trying to understand how a certain sector operates or how certain technology should be thought of, you're literally their mechanism for figuring that out. They're frequently they're not subject matter experts. They're civil servants. They're trying to do their job. And they have very specific set of tools that allow them to engage with the public and bring in comments, and so that's your opportunity. And if you're helping them shape how they view the universe, and you happen to be a participant in that universe, then it's more likely that you're going to get funded, and it's also just more likely that they're going to appreciate working with you as well, since you've been forthcoming and supportive and helpful. So we tell everyone, where we start looking at it is like when they announce the funding opportunity, they'll have public comment periods, they'll have addendums and so forth that they'll issue on the basis of certain questions or other things that happen. And following along and being involved in that process ensures that not only that you're helping kind of shape their view of the space, but that you're participating, you're being part of the process, which is really truly an important aspect of it. And so yeah, I think to the extent that you have time, or someone on your team, right? Like you can send a little crew to go take care of this. If you have a team that's supposed to be doing this kind of capture work. And if not, we always encourage folks to hire consultants who can help improve those relationships with the funding agencies and help them arrive at the right conclusions about, what a funding program should look like.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, what are your thoughts on drafting grants? 'Cause that's a whole nother, or uh, applying to grants rather. What were your thoughts, advice on that? Because that's a pretty big service industry. I feel like every other day I meet, okay, maybe it's not every other day, but every couple of weeks I meet somebody new in sort of the grant writing space. So thoughts on that and like sort of how to navigate that industry.
Yeah, I tell people all the time that, hiring a grant writer is a lot like hiring an attorney, right? You can do it yourself, but it's probably not a good idea unless it's what you do all the time. And then just
Mm,
like you're gonna, you may have sort of an attorney who helps you understand that, like, you need a specific set of attorneys for labor disputes or like other things, and you need attorneys who specialize in taxes, right? Like there's a lot of specialization within the legal profession, and the grant writing is the same way. There's a lot of specialization. DoD grants are not the same as Department of Commerce grants are not the same as, and so on and so forth. And the state level, it's different than the federal, and then the foundations are different than all of that. And so when you start to unpack it all, you realize that either you need you might have a couple like savant kind of full-time people, and even if you have a full-time grant writer on staff at your company, they probably need help. It's a lot
yeah,
of work, and it's a lot of very specialized knowledge.
got it. And what I was gonna say was if people if they want to find a grant writer, is there like a marketplace for that, or has that not been invented yet? I feel like one point there's gonna be, or do
Yeah,
y'all offer that?
we do. So Open Grants definitely has a marketplace. there's other places you could find talent as well, you know. But I think, you know, starting with, if you have a grant writer on staff, definitely like ask them, right? Like, like, do you need help?
Yeah.
Because they probably do, and give them budget for that. But yeah, you know, Open Grants provides a whole marketplace of grant writers that are organized by their specialty. So you can search by, you know, SBIR, DOD, and you can find people who do, you know, understand that program. Or you could search for FEMA BRIC, and you can find people who know that program. So lots of ways to go about it, but definitely you want to get the right people for the right job, which usually means finding specialists, depending on the program you're targeting.
Definitely. Yeah, I actually was not fully aware of that, so that's pretty awesome that y'all are creating, have created one of the first marketplaces. The other sort of startup idea I've always had is everything around the public comment period of these regulatory agencies. I feel like no one's like fully solved that issue, because for those that are not aware, these regulatory agencies have public commentary periods all the time, and this is quite literally when the fabric of our laws and regulations are changed, and you know, very few people attend those commentary periods. So I feel like there's like a lot of room for innovation there. Obviously for applying to and shaping grants, but there's so much more that can be done there. So last, you know, question here is, what are you most excited about, I guess, for both open grants and just what you're seeing in the industry as a whole? So what we're excited about in the next sort of 5-10 years, both your company and more broadly speaking, the industry of GovTech and legal tech.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we set out to do in terms of building a common app, like a literally just like a single front door for all of the grant funding, you know, processes. It's something that we are slowly seeing come to pass. We're seeing some really incredible work being done by HHS and the Office of Grants, and some really incredible research being published by the U.S. Digital Response and a few other groups. And so, you know, in a nutshell, I think that that's really exciting for open grants. What I'm super excited about overall is GovTech at large. So seeing companies like yours, seeing companies that are building and innovating in this space, I mean, my thesis is that the next kind of huge unicorn, like, you know, Facebook-sized company is going to come from this sector, only because I think the government is an incredible catalyst for business, for change. Like, the government built Silicon Valley back in the day, right? Like, there was a time where the government was doing incredible things. Now, frequently, they seem to be maybe struggling to do incredible things. You know, they attempt them, but they have a hard time. And I think that as we look at sort of like the underlying issues there, and start to see people innovating and building solutions in that space, we're going to see some incredible change, or it all collapses and we have some sort of like Mad Max situation. But either way, it's going to be fun and exciting and interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So you know, I am really excited about that, and you know, cautiously optimistic that all of the awesome people building GovTech are going to continue to innovate and bring good solutions to market, and that we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I am, in your words, cautiously optimistic as well. Because, I mean, Mad Max sounds kind of cool, but also terrible, you know?
Right? Yeah, it's legit. Real bad.
Yeah. So other than that, hey, look, Sadil, thank you again for taking the time to join us for this webinar. And if anyone wants to learn more about what Sadil does at Open Grants, or, you know, sort of his theses around I don't know what the right word is there. His thesis around GovTech, multiple thesis. You know, you can find him on LinkedIn, socials, and all that. So we'll make sure to include that down below. But thank you again, Sadil, and it was definitely a pleasure getting to chat with you here.
Thanks.
All right, bye, y'all.